Okay, welcome to the first episode of Dawn and the Q. I am one of your hosts, Pagogo, and this is the other host, Octopodes Titan,
Hello, everyone.
otherwise referred to as Octo. Um, so this is a brand new podcast that Octo and I decided to start. Um, what we wanted to do with this show is, well, I really wanted to like record some of our conversations that we have when we kind of like review and learn because I find them interesting and sometimes want to like listen back to what is said. But I also find that some of the content probably could be useful to others. Um, there are other podcasts out there that are just audio, and that's perfectly fine. That works for them. But I wanted to have a show where we could utilize a board, and so this gives us that opportunity to talk about positions and play out some moves, and actually, see the game itself. On top
Right.
of that, oh, go ahead.
Uh, Most likely in this first episode, we won't really be using a board. Just
Correct.
a lot of intro stuff, a lot of talking and whatnot.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah,
And the the reason why it's titled Dawn and the Q is, and this is like another aspect of the show, is that we wanted to have a show where there's two hosts, one being the Dawn, one being the Q player, and when we talk about different ideas and topics, it's it's the conversation between the two players, one who is experienced and one who is newer to the game, and we'll kind of get more into the background as to why I think I am an okay representative for those in mid SDK all the way up to DDK, uh, but that's the idea and premise of this show, and it's also going to be a bit more just laid back, relaxed, just a couple friends talking about Go.
yeah, we do have some plans for episodes to come. But why don't you just start us off? Tell us, your intro and history and whatnot. Like,
Yeah,
how long?
yeah. So I'm Pagogo, as you can see from my name down here. Um, so I am a 6Q on OGS. Uh, I started playing on the exact day is July 9th of 2024. So if you're doing the math correctly, well, I guess as the day of recording this, I'm a little over 9 months now, right?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
crazy. Not even a full year. You're already mid SDK.
yeah. And when I say started playing, I don't mean like, oh yeah, I knew the game and like I played. Like, no, I did not know like anything about the game other than like it's about territory, and like placing stones on board. That's more or less the extent of what I knew. Otherwise, like any sort of strategy fundamentals, none of that. Um, so that kind of goes back into what I was saying earlier. I think I can bring the perspective of kind of what a DDK might be thinking when certain moves and sequences are played, because I think it can be easily missed that someone like yourself, Octo, is going through a sequence like, hey, I play this is fine, but then there's like that DDK and even sometimes SDK brain where you're like, but what about this move? Like this seems scary. Why can't wouldn't I would respond like this? Then what would happen? Um, which when you're listening to a podcast, it could just get glossed over, or even a video of any sort. It just kind of gets glossed over and it's not addressed. And now this DDK or SDK is like, I have no idea what what's gonna happen now, or
Right.
why like this move is bad. So because I'm so, I was recently a DDK as of, when did I break DDK? Was it technically August or September? I
Yeah, I
would
was
have,
thinking August.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that's about when I broke through DDK. But during that time, I mean, I very much was a DDK, so it's still very recent. Um, so yeah, so haven't been playing that long, 9 months, but you know, don't mess with me. I I will.
Yeah, man. Not even 1 year down, it'll be crazy to see what you're gonna do in the second year.
Yeah. So right now, my goal is to try and reach one done within a year, but you know, I'm not gonna be devastated if I don't reach it because realistically, I'm just trying to improve and I'm just enjoying the game. But I want to work towards that because I think it'd be cool to say I got a Dawn within a year.
You mean this July?
Yeah,
Dude. Oh, that's
dude,
so much work.
dude.
People don't appreciate how much work that actually is. There's so many high dons who'll be like, "Oh yeah, you could do it. You could do it." No, you've got to be putting in game after game so much work. But anyway, I should probably tell you a little bit about myself.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, so I'm one of the many Westerners who first got exposed to Go in movies, specifically A Beautiful Mind, about a troubled mathematician named John Nash, and also a movie called Pi, Darren Aronofsky film, also about a troubled mathematician. Um, and I think I had a girlfriend who bought me like a really really cheap Go set that you'd find at like a mall kiosk during like Christmas time.
Oh,
Um, in fact, the stones were so tiny they didn't even fill the entire like circular portion of an intersection. So as you're putting stones next to each other, there's a huge gap in between the stones. It was a nightmare to look at because they don't touch each other. Um, but I couldn't really find anyone to play with at the time, so it kind of went on the back burner until my last year of college, which was in 2009. Um, I had a lot of free time that last semester, so I was just grinding on KGS every single day. Um, I think it took me about 6 months to get up to SDK.
what year was this that you were starting to like play on KGS?
2009.
2009.
Yeah, that's really when I consider like I actually started playing.
Hmm. Okay.
Yeah, so
Old.
I'm in my 16th year now, and the terrible part is it took me 15 years to get to Dawn level. Um, long time, and here you are. You think you can do it in 1 year? Oh, crazy.
I mean, I'm learning from the best.
Not just no. Okay, first off, he's not talking about me. He's talking about another Dawn that we will have on the podcast at some point.
Yep. Yep.
But just like you were saying, how you were DDK not that long ago, so that's still fresh in your head. In a lot of ways, I feel the same way about SDK. I wasn't SDK, forever ago. I mean, I was, but like I'm a relatively new Dawn player, so there's so many other well-known personalities who have been Dawn level for years and years now. So I've had a really different experience finally getting to this point. But I am an AGA 2 Dawn. I've competed in at least 5 AGA tournaments, and somehow I've held on to Dawn level. I have no idea how. But I think it's real enough for me to say it. So
You're a Don in my heart. Dude, you have to be a Don because otherwise this podcast ain't gonna work. um, yeah, I guess I had missed that part of kind of how I got into Go. So so I knew of the game from Hikaru no Go back when I was like in third grade. So like that's how far back I knew about it. But like I never like played it because there was nowhere to play. No one knew what the game was.
you were busy with another game.
That's true. I was busy with another game. So growing up, I played chess competitively. So third grade through when I graduated high school, played chess. But anyways, fast forward back to 2024, um, I I was doing some work with AI, and a coworker of mine suggested that I watch the AlphaGo documentary. And I remember hearing about it, but I don't um, remember watching it. So I was like, okay, I'll take a look at this, because I was like, I know what Go is from the anime. I know what it is. Um, so I watched the documentary. Great documentary. I think everyone that plays Go who has seen it knows it. It's great. It's awesome. Um, but it got me really interested in the game. And so during that time, my wife was having a surgery where I was going to have to be home with her for a couple weeks. So I was like, okay, well, while she's resting and recovering, I'm going to learn this game. So that's what I did during that time, and it really fascinated me. And it was scratching the itch of um like I wanted to play chess, but I just didn't feel the creativity and art that I once did when I was younger playing chess. It just wasn't. It's just not the same for me anymore. And a lot of that does have to do with um, chess engines and AI being out for so long. Um, but Go was just so different, where I'm like, I can really be like artistic and creative on this, and like there's so many cool things that can happen for such a simple game. So yeah, after that I just fell in love with it and kept playing, and I was moving up real fast, and I was like, let's just see how far I can take it. And I'm still kind of not stopping. I have a lot of inertia, so
Yeah.
a wall will be hit at some point, and I will cry that day.
So, how did we meet? We haven't really met, but like, what was our beginning?
Wow, what a great segue, Octo. um, so yeah, I'll kind of start off, and then you can go. You can take it. So when I was learning how to play, one of the places I started playing was on OGS, and lo and behold, in the top right corner, I see a little like TV, and so I click on that, and I see this links directly to Twitch streamers, and so I was like, let's see who's on, and who do I find? Mr. Octo right there, Q reviews, and I'm like, that's me. So then I started throwing games in there for you to review. You're helping me improve. And I was like, this is great. I love it, because not only are you reviewing the game, but I'm able to ask questions. And so I'm getting like direct feedback right there. And then,
Then, in kind of in the middle of a paused Jubongo with technically another streamer named Baze, we had this idea where we wanted to do what we called the student games, where we would more or less take a month to train some handpicked. Each of us had a single handpicked player, and then we would pit them against each other for our own amusement.
and the specific rank was 9 to 11Q, I believe, right?
Yeah, yeah. We didn't want them. We didn't really want a DDK, and we didn't want anyone like too close to 5Q. Um, kind of the reasoning there was like it's kind of related to originally what my stream was advertised to, because originally I used to have in my title that I was looking for players between say 12 and 7Q, because that's such a tough rank for so many players, because you have 12 through 10 trying to hit that SDK milestone finally. It's like, what do I have to do to get there? And then you have another strange phenomenon like, okay, you've done it. You're 9, 8Q. Now what? Okay, you got it. Now what? How do I keep going? I've done all this work to finally get here. Now what do I do? Right? So that can be a really confusing time. And it's also a really common first plateau for most players. So I always had this idea for the stream, wouldn't it be cool if we could just like help players break through that very first plateau and just keep going? How do we keep going, right? Um, so then this guy comes along, who's DDK, and he's like, "Hey, I want to be your student." And I think at the time you were like 14Q or something.
I was like 14 or 15Q.
Yeah, and I was like, "Keep trying, buddy."
Yeah, so you said we're looking for 9 to 11 queues, and you're like the submission to like sign up ends like like it was like end of August. And when you said this, it was like I don't know, like beginning of August, maybe like
Mhm.
5, 10 days in or something like that. And I was like, challenge accepted.
Right. Um, and I had already picked a student. In fact, both of us had.
Oh, I didn't know that. I
And
thought it was still open.
no, we both had already picked students.
Oh shit.
Um, the issue was is that my student, who is a school teacher, that was terrible timing for him because classes had just started, and he was so busy. We never got to have a single session. I'm like, oh my god! Like the first week of the training month had already gone by, and I'm like, we have not done anything. What is going on? And then lo and behold, this guy shows up bragging about how he just beat Base's student, and it wasn't even like an official game, and he hadn't even hit SDK yet. I think you had just gotten to 10 or 11, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I was like, whoa, you are serious. You are highly motivated. Let's do this. Let's pull the trigger on this. So, yeah, that was kind of our beginning.
Yeah, so then over the course of the next 3 weeks was when we trained together. So almost every night, I would come to you with games or questions, and you'd kind of review them in a more one-on-one setting. Um, you even played games with me, and then we would review those, basically, highlighting very basic issues that I have. Oh, you approach thickness. You made a base. This move is slow. Like very simple things. Like,
Right.
um, yeah. I mean, if the audience is dying to know, I did not win the match. Leading
Right.
up to the first game, I literally went on like a 10-game losing streak. My mental state was in the dumpster, and I'm like, I'm not going to win. And my first game, I mean, I lost. And not only did I lose, like, it was terrible play, like very uncharacteristic of me. And like, I think everyone knew it, and they're like, oh shit. And then basis student, whose name is Herv, we'll call him by his name, Herv. Um, yeah, he played phenomenal. I mean,
Yeah, that was one of the best games. I think up to that point, that was one of the best games I've ever seen him play. I was
so
like, oh my gosh, this is devastating.
yeah, I was like at my low, he's at his peak, and I just get absolutely thrashed. Um, so then I like had a mental breakdown, and and I had a few people help me. Yourself, uh, Neil was our friend Neil was a big, um, one of the big components to me, like getting me out of the gutter. Um, and so,
Quick interjection: Neil will potentially be a third host, but he's about to get married, so he's a little bit busy. Woo! But
woo.
continue.
Um, and so, he really helped me, like kind of get out of my own head. Um, and I was able to refocus because we played a game, and then the way it was set up was that 1 week later was when we were going to play the next game. And so
It was
I
a
had,
best of 3 match.
yes, thank you. And so I was like, okay, I spent one day crying And then 6 days I was able to refocus and get ready. Now, I think the second game was much better. I definitely still had issues and I was still a little bit in my head, but it was not what the first game was. Um,
Mhm.
and Herv won. Congratulations to Herv. He played great again. Um, so yeah, I lost that 0-2. So we had this. The story was basically, oh, here's this up and comer new guy who just picked up the game. He actually defeated Herv before even getting here, and then just gets demolished.
I guess for now you kind of had the last laugh though, because now you're like two ranks above him
Yeah. Well,
because you are not stopping for some reason. You had like a mini plateau, and it wasn't even like a real plateau. Like that match was your plateau, but it was more
mhm.
of like a mental thing. And then once you got past it, you just kept going.
Yeah, it was. I kept teetering between like 9Q, 8Q to 10Q. Like it was kind of jumping back and forth there.
Hmm.
Um, I'm trying to remember like how I broke through it even. I think I just kind of like calmed down mentally, understood that I think I just had to like tell myself like the rank didn't matter. Like period. The rank does not matter because it doesn't. Um, and that in order for me to improve, I need to try out new things. And when you're trying out new things, you fumble it. And so
Hmm.
I had to be okay fumbling it and losing games. And that's a hard skill. Like that's not it's easy for me to say, but it's so much harder to execute. Um, but once I was able to do that, it was like here I am at like 8Q and I like fell back down to like 10Q and then all of a sudden it was like and boop 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 and just like this a consistent rise slowly over the course of like the next few months and here I am at 6Q.
Yeah.
So,
Um, yeah, it took me a long time. I felt like I think within the first few years, I probably got up around that 6 to 5 key range, but I was stuck there for a long time. I was stuck at mid SDK and high SDK for a long time.
mhm.
Um, and it's certainly taken like multiple paradigms of the game to really break through some of these plateaus.
Mhm. Yeah, I actually now remember like what one of the big things was in terms of like what do I need to learn next? Like where are my issues in my game? And I was talking to you and um, Neil and our friend Max, and it was kind of this consensus of yeah, you're suffering from like middle game issues, which is not uncommon like at the SDK level where it's like, okay, you can get through the opening just fine, but now how do you handle like mid game fighting, middle game direction of play, and like how do I attack things? How do I defend things? Like it was such a hard concept for me, and there wasn't like a great there wasn't good content out there in my opinion. Like I didn't find anything useful, or if there was, it was like broken up into little pieces where it's like, oh, here's this one little idea, or here's this one little idea,
Hmm.
and uh, this was like around like Christmas, and so I was asking like, what Go books should I get? And so there's a bunch of recommendations, and someone says, I think you should read Attack and Defense, and I was like, what's that about? And I'll say chat or not chat audience. Octo was like, I don't know if you should read that.
I often discourage. I would say even as far as like 5Q. If you're not 5Q or above, don't do it. Just be patient. Be patient and don't do it just yet.
Or be rebellious and just do it. Um, but I think that helped me at least plant the ideas in my head. I shouldn't say I don't think. I know I have not fully absorbed things from that book. I'm still working on that, but it was like enough to kind of get me over the hump, and now I'm starting to understand games a little bit better.
Mhm.
At least at like higher level games, I'm understanding what is happening, whereas before I was like, I don't get what is going on at all. I'm just like, why do you play over there? Like, why can't you? Shouldn't you do this? And um, so yeah, I like the book. I recommend it, but you're not wrong. It is dense and a difficult read.
Yes, for sure.
Dense in the sense of like the content it provides. It's a fairly small book. It's only like 200 something pages, but yeah, it's hard. Um, so let's talk about like our styles of play. Like,
Okay.
what's your style, Octo?
Actually, I want to ask you because I think we played on the order of like 15 games since September. How would you define my style? What do you think?
Okay, it's changed. Assuming that you haven't like changed your play drastically to like accommodate me, I think it's
I do a little
changed.
bit. I do a little bit
Okay.
because I always want to like show you something new. So I'll try to play differently
Yeah.
almost every game.
And I'm not talking about like Joseki's. I'm
Okay,
I'm
okay.
saying like other middle game stuff where I'm like, what the hell are you doing? Um, I would say it is. I mean, it's very much Japanese style, but to kind of
Yes.
put a little more character to it, I would say you're very calm in that you want to figure out what is happening on the board, and then you'll start to think about, I want to get these certain moves in. I want, this is my idea of like what's going to happen on this side of the board, but in order for you to really benefit from that idea, you can't just directly play out that sequence. And so then you start to like think, how can I plant stones nearby that can help this out? But if they're ignored, I get benefit in some other areas. You do these annoying little probing attachment moves, and then you just tanuki, and I hate it so much. I can't stand it. Um,
Yeah, you got to plant the Aji.
God, it's like I'll have like a 3-4 with a. You know what? This is the perfect time to bring up the board. Actually, this is the perfect time.
Oh, here we go. Off to the board.
Yeah. God dang it! Why can't I? Can I please remove these stones? Didn't think this through in terms of having to remove these stones. Um, but like I'll have like this like knight's enclosure, and I'm like, all right, I'm good. And then like you'll just like do this stupid attachment. I'm like, what is this? What are you doing? And then I'll go like here, and then you're like, all right, I'm just gonna go back over here now. And I'm like, what did you just do? And then magically, somehow, there will be some other moves that are happening, like some weird like invasion where I'm like, I don't want these to connect, so then I'll block, but then it like creates this weird attack, or you get like a base or something, and then I'm upset. I'm upset. I'm so mad. I'm like, this shouldn't have happened. Um, but yeah, that's how I would kind of describe it. You don't want to get into these scrappy fights, because you suck at Sumego. No,
It is well known.
half joking about that. You're definitely better than me, but you know your weakness is Sumego, so you don't want to put yourself in positions where you're having to do that frequently. Your strengths are direction of play and Joseki. Like that's where your strengths are, and that's what you want to stick to, which is fine. Um, so I don't know if that really like like gives a good just like a title to your style, but that's like how I would describe it all.
Yeah, I would say That's mostly accurate. I would also say this whole Aji stuff, that's kind of coincidental for you because this is like the one of the most recent developments in my game, like getting a lot better as far as planting and properly utilizing Aji stones.
Yeah, it definitely is newer, and by that I mean within the past few months. Because there was one game where you started doing this, and I'm like, what are you doing? And then it wouldn't be till later on where I'm like, oh my god, this is the most annoying thing ever. Because then after that, I was like, oh my god, every time he does this, he's gonna utilize this stone somehow. And I can't stop him unless I want to play like a very slow move to prevent you from like utilizing it.
Mhm.
Which, I mean, I jokingly say I hate it, but it's also very good practice, and it's helped me learn like I can't stop some of these things from happening. All
Mhm.
I can do is let it happen and try and have you live as small as possible, or try and get a benefit somewhere else on the board. It's a trade, is what I'm trying to get out of it.
Yeah, everything in Go is a trade. You have to finagle all of these trades somehow where the net is in your favor,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're winning.
All right.
But yeah, saying I have a Japanese style is overwhelmingly accurate. Most of my academics, however you want to think of that, in Go have been from a Japanese perspective. Um, I so going way back, I when I was DDK all the way up to low SDK, I was very territorial, very different than what you're used to seeing actually. And then inevitably, I would have to invade because I wonder how my opponent got all this influence. It's because I took all the territory, right? So then it's this crazy struggle for this invasion to live, or maybe I have to do it multiple times because their their zone is so big, and that got old. I got really sick of playing those games. So I think somewhere around mid SDK, I finally started getting exposed to other ideas. Influence was still just too strange, and I didn't even really have a concept of thickness at the time. But then I started reading one of my all-time favorite Go book, which talks a lot about thickness, and that really changed my perspective. I still wasn't trying to push myself to be an influence player. In fact, I switched to Moyos. Oh man, I had so much fun with Moyos, but I didn't actually know how to play them correctly. I was just having fun, like trying to build. I being a builder for so long, that was so much fun. But in reality, a Moyo is actually a device for attacking, and I've always been a terrible attacker. Um, so that didn't work either for a long time. So I got stuck as an SDK for quite a while because I didn't know the proper way to do some of these styles, really. Now, though, I would actually categorize myself more as um, maybe like a flexible, or if I'm being more of a romantic, I would say like a no style, like some kind of Zen style, because I think uh, you really, unless you're specifically trying to practice a very particular style, you don't want to go into a game saying, I'm going to do this. You don't know if that's going to be good for you or not. So
Mm-hmm.
ideally, what we would be doing is actually just reacting organically to whatever the board state is. So whatever the board state calls for, that is the best style you should be playing, whether it is territorial or moyo or some kind of attacking style.
Yeah, and to kind of illustrate on the board what it means by what you mean by like you can't just force a Moyo style is like if white has like stones like here, you can like if black really wants to be like aha I'm above you, white's like okay that's fine I have these like fourth line territory, and so like it makes it more difficult for black to. And this is like a very small niche example, but by trying to fight so hard for the outside, you could just be giving what like your opponent way too much territory, where now it's just super difficult to like come back.
Yeah. Although I would so often have the opposite effect, where I was fighting so hard for the territory,
You would be
I
the
was
way.
stupidly giving my opponent the outside, like everywhere. Really bad. Really bad.
You're over here like, aha. You're like you're like
Not that bad, but yeah.
you're like I have 2 points, sucker. I got the corner. But yeah, I get what you're saying, and we'll probably dive into that at some point during
Oh
the
yeah.
podcast. But
Yeah, we'll get more interactive
yeah,
for sure.
um, okay. So I described your style. Why don't you describe mine, and then I'll go
I've
after you.
actually been trying to think about that. Honestly, you are in such a state of flux. I'm not convinced you actually have one. I think earlier on you did have more of a territorial style, and like you were describing having issues with the middle game. I think a better way to describe it is you just didn't know what to do at all. Like there was a problem transitioning to the middle game, but then you're there and you're like, I guess I'll play a move over here. Like we weren't like going through like some kind of mental checklist of like, okay, here are the things that I would normally do in a middle game. Which one of these does this game fit into, right? So then your opponents would come back really
Mm-hmm.
hard.
Yep.
But I think that's changing. So I think you're starting to get a lot better at fighting. And maybe that's partially to do with your rank. Because something has changed on OGS. They have gotten so much more scrappy in recent years. I swear they weren't like that years ago. But yeah, the server style has changed up a bit, and it is definitely more aggressive than it used to be.
Mm. Yeah. Can't speak to that. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think there's just like so much that I'm still learning that it's really hard to pinpoint a style for me. Plus, I I try and play a very balanced game. I mean, my teacher is you and others within the Tangle, where they are of that style, the Zen style, the no style, because we're trying to play what the board is calling for, and so these like ideas of like, oh, I want to play this territorial move or I want to play this Moyo move, like it's not about that. It's what is the board saying to me? What are my stones communicating? And if they're trying to communicate a specific message, I need to align with that message. I can't go against it because now my stones are not interacting properly together, and it's just like it creates it creates issues that it's really hard to like it's really hard to showcase without like having a specific example um, to go over. But you
Yeah,
know what
so
I'm
I
talking
mean,
about.
it could be a case where we're trying to like it's the last corner. Like this Joseki is going to finish off the opening more or less. This is the last unfinished corner, and we're trying to pick a Joseki. Like, what direction should we go in? It could be, uh, it could be the case that the rest of the board is telling us, "Oh, you don't really have a good direction for development. Okay, I need to take territory." That's kind of what that's calling toward. I should just take this corner because I don't have a way to build in any other direction. Or it might be something where maybe your opponent is just playing very slowly in the opening and just giving you insane opportunities to build a huge moyo, like, or at least the beginnings of that framework. Like you're just going to start taking all the side star points, right? Because they're being so lazy and slow with their moves.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just kind of about planting your flag and then seeing, are they really going to let me continue to build? Okay. Or nope, they're coming right in and they're going to break up the board, and will likely be a target of attack.
Yeah. Yeah, I think what it kind of comes back to for me, or the easiest way to describe it. I know I started setting up position here, and then I don't really know what I was going to do with it. But um, within the book Attack and Defense, it talks about very early on. It's actually, yeah, chapter one. It talks about the balance of territory versus power,
Right.
and if one player is gaining a ton of power, then you need to be gaining a bunch of territory, and vice versa. If one player is gaining a bunch of territory, then you need to be gaining power, because that's your compensation. Is if they get territory, you get power. That power will then at some point turn into territory. Maybe not directly in the sense that it's like, oh, if this is like your thickness, it's not like, all of this will be my points. It could be actually you gain points over here, which is a really weird concept, but I know you
Mm-hmm.
know exactly what I'm talking about.
Right. Because you tell me, like, what is the primary purpose of that thick wall?
Yeah, so you need to use thickness to attack. And so what you should be doing is playing, I mean, you hear play away from thickness, right? And people think, oh, as example, like for white, let me erase the drawing. As white, I don't want to play near like these this wall because it's too close. It's gonna get attacked, right? So then white's like, oh, I'm gonna play over here. But the same can be said for black. Black doesn't want to play over here. You just used your wall to make a few points. That's not an efficient use of your stones. You want to play as far away as possible. That within reason, that makes sense, right? And so then now what you're threatening is like, oh, all of this is maybe gonna be mine, and it's not. We know that. This is just too big of an area, but you threatened it, and so then what happens, or at least in the games that I have played and what I have seen time and time again, is white may invade or do something, and so then white may like live, but oops, my bad. Black may like just get this huge wall, and then now like they just get points. Or like this is super hard for white to do anything, or maybe white even like does invade here, and now black gets like thickness on this side, and then now he has some like thickness over here, and so then like white lived, like let's say there was like a big fight and white was able to survive. Again, this is just a very rough like show of what I'm talking about, but now you can see there's this wall that is now working with this wall, and so now you have like a decent chunk of points here. So that's what I mean by when you have this thickness that had started over here, the points are not necessarily generated in this area. They can be generated across the board.
Right. Pass me control for 1 second.
Yeah.
Um, because this is this is a little difficult to follow. But originally, you had said, even before this, you had said, "Oh, we probably don't want to make points here. We'd probably prefer it, or maybe not prefer it, but there's a decent chance that we would be making points over here." Now, how would that ever happen? Well, if there is some kind of white group that is maybe just a little too close, the idea would be, some sort of chasing. We're trying to drive them into the power, into the thickness. But what I normally say is, what's happening on the other side of the fight? We're generating a new zone a potential territory through the attack.
Yep.
So this is where you hear stronger players saying, "Oh, attack for profit. Don't attack to kill." Right? That's literally what this is. I'm not
Hmm.
actually trying to kill white. I'm trying to scare them into playing defensive move after defensive move after defensive move. It's a waste. It's a giant waste of time to be trapped playing nothing but defense. But black essentially got free stones in the middle of the board, even maybe not always, but the real question is what's happening on the other side of those attacking stones? It's a new zone of potential territory being generated almost for free.
Hmm. Yeah, and um, I'm not gonna pull it up here. We can maybe look at this at a different date, but like a very good example of that was like I just this past weekend I played against a Don at my local club, and I was trying to kill a group on uh, the right side of the board, and it didn't end up working out. He lived, and he actually killed a fairly large group of mine. I want to say it was probably like 16, 17 stones. And at that point, you think it's game over. Like you've completely lost. But what actually was happening was I was making an extremely thick wall on the outside where my opponent, like, he could not approach it without me like attacking him severely. And so I knew that the game was much closer than what it looked like. And
Mm-hmm.
I was right in the sense that like when I went to like put the game through like AI, the graph was like, I mean, yeah, clearly he was winning by like 7 points or something, but like the fact that I lost 17 stones and it's like, oh yeah, you're only behind by 7 points is insane.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's such a wild thing to think about that like you can lose that big of a group and be like, oh yeah, yeah, that's fine. But it's such a weird and difficult concept to think about.
And we weren't really arguing over that review, but we were like trying to figure it out because the capturing race was also a co-fight, and that the value of that co was over 70 points. So we're trying to generate co-threats that are actually going to be viable enough to ignore or do we have to respond to these
Yeah.
co-threats, stuff like that. That was a crazy problem.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, we'll have to look at that games at some point. I think that's a very valuable game for Q players to look at and see that you can sacrifice stones, like a large amount of stones, and still be okay. Um,
mhm.
because I mean, even like you hear like better players say like, oh, just sacrifice these stones. That's okay. That's fine. And like they'll say that for maybe like 1 stone or like 2 stones, but then so then when like a Q player looks at a group of like 3, 4, or 5 stones, it's like, oh, I have to hold on to this. I can't lose it. And it's like, no, no, you can, but you have to do it strategically. You have to gain something from them killing it, um, which again is a different topic, um, but yeah,
Yeah.
back to what we were talking about. So yeah, I don't think I have a style. I think it's just kind of playing what makes sense for the board. Um, and I also try out new things. That's just because
Hmm.
like I'm trying to learn and experiment. So can't really say that's part of my style. That's just like me learning.
You've certainly had an accelerated amount of exposure, and what I mean by that is there'll be times. I mean, not just us. This ought to be every Go player. There'll be times when maybe you're looking at a pro game or you're reading a book or whatever it is. You see something you've never seen before, and it might not be mind blowing, but it's like, what is this?
Mm-hmm.
um and it's just something, this new little thing to add to your repertoire. And for you, to have someone like myself or Max even just constantly showing you things that you've never seen before. I think that's been a big catalyst for your growth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would have to agree with that. And for those of you who are maybe thinking it, when we say Max, you may also know him as MX Hero of Go. So just throwing that out there. Shout out Max, he's great.
Yeah.
um, yeah. So that's, I don't know. I think that kind of sums up our styles. Again, it's like you have your style based off of your, many years of playing. I have my style based off of basically my teachers. So what can I do? They shaped me. um, let's talk about who's your favorite pro player, Octo?
Being as old as I am,
Go
he is
Sagan.
he is slightly older. Gosagan's too complicated for me. Um, yeah, I mean he's amazing, but he's way too complicated. No, he's Japanese player Hane Naoki.
Okay.
He actually wrote my all-time favorite Go book. Um, the way the way of creating a thick and strong game. So a little bit about him as far as like his philosophical outlook on Go. It's really two big things. One, in that book, he really showcases how through the years, or I should say, what building thickness meant to him and how it evolved throughout his Go career. But he also has this interesting idea that he calls the 80% rule that I
Oh,
have
that's this guy. Okay.
yeah, yeah,
Yep.
yeah, yeah. That I love this idea. But so for him, playing Go is not about finding this ultra perfect move like it would be for someone like Issei Dole, maybe um, who else? Maybe like Shinjin Saw. Anyway, he's not about that. He's really just trying to find a move that's good enough and he'll let the leeway kind of work itself out. Now that does often cause his games to be very close, but then his the other half of it is he's relying a lot on his thickness that he builds to sort of act as the investment that it is, and then he cashes in later. But yeah, I really resonate with that. I think he's had a really cool career. Um, what about you? Have you been exposed to enough pros yet? Because you and I have been doing a little pro study.
So before we touch on that, I really like that idea of like the 80% rule, where it's like play a move that's like 80 that will like get the job done 80% of the time. Like it's not the perfect move, but it's still like pretty dang good. And the reason why I like that idea so much is that when Q players, and I was guilty of this too, are learning, they want to find like what's the blue move? Oh, what's the best move here? And then like some other player may suggest a move and be like, "Oh yeah, I think you could play this side extension or whatever." And they're like, "No, that's a terrible move. Like that's not the blue move." And it's like, yeah, AI wants to find the most perfect thing, but humans are not AI. We can get away with playing like suboptimal moves. And you're not a 9 Dan professional. You are a
Hmm.
10Q who barely knows how stones coordinate together. So you don't need to be finding a blue move. You just need to be playing good, fundamentally sound Go. That's what you should be striving for within the Q ranks, in my opinion. Now, when you start, I mean, even down level, I think that can still be applied.
Hmm.
Um, Now, is it fun to search for those blue moves? Absolutely. But know that, like, in the beginning of the game, there just play good moves, like good to solid moves. Like maybe you'll run into problems, but like they're not gonna be that big of problems, more than likely. So,
I would actually argue it's more fun to find your version of a creative move that will probably never be a blue move. But it's you like really expressing yourself on the board.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see that. Um, but yeah, back to my favorite pro player. Um, in terms of like a player that I resonate, I don't have a ton of exposure, but from what I have seen, from the one game I looked at, I believe his name is Fujisawa Takagawa. Is that right?
No, you're thinking of Takagawa Kaku.
Takagawa Kaku, you said?
Uh,
Or
Ka-
it's Shukaku, right? That's like the full name.
no,
Shukaku Takagawa? No?
no. You're like blending two different players together. I'm pretty sure it's Takagawa Kaku. You were either thinking of him or Fujisawa Shuko.
No, it's Takagawa.
Takagawa, yeah, Takagawa. Okay.
Yeah. Um, and the reason why I liked him so much, and maybe it's just like that one specific game, but from what you said, this is kind of how he plays in general. Is he like he doesn't argue with his opponent on the board. And sorry for those of you who watch the show, Go to us is like a language, and so when we are talking about it, it's very much like this is what is being said on the board. And this is like the conversation that's being had, and they're saying this, but they're just saying that, or they're disagreeing, or they're agreeing, whatever. Anyways, he doesn't argue that much on the board. Like his opponent can make some, I mean, they're not professional, so it's not unreasonable moves, but it's very much like, I want this. We're gonna fight over this, and he's like, oh no, you can take that. I'm gonna go do this thing over here, and it's like an equivalent exchange almost. And then they'll try and have another argument. His opponent will try and have another argument. No, I want to do this. We need to fight over this. And he goes, no, I don't think so. I'm just gonna do something over here. And like that's what I love, because I don't like these scrappy fights where there's attachments and now I have to figure out what is the correct shape moves and direction of play in these fights, because it's hard. It's fucking complicated. But he's just like, no, okay, I'm okay with that. You can have your little fun here. I'm gonna go do something else. And he made it work, and it just looks awesome to me. Now, in terms of seeing some cool stuff, like I watched the game and I'm like, this is fucking magic because I don't understand what's happening. Issei Dole is pretty fun. Um,
Yeah.
but again, I don't understand what's happening. All I know is like he's doing stuff that doesn't make any sense, and I think they're bad moves. And then all of a sudden, it's all piecing together, and it's like, and he wins. All this stuff, all these groups dead, and you're like, what just happened? So
Right.
yeah,
Very different players. That's really interesting because Takagawa is typically defined as having a very Honte proper style. Um, and you were kind of dancing around it. His sort of motto is almost a proverb. It's flowing water does not fight with what lies ahead. Whereas Isedol is the exact opposite. He is trying to make the game as complicated as possible, to the point that he's playing what we would historically call suboptimal direction of play, or Joseki choices. Now he's very creative with what he does because most of the time he's picking Josekis that are actually planting Aji in his opponent's positions. So he's being a little rebellious in the way that he plays, but he severely cashes in on it later.
yep, yeah. I like him in the sense that like, not that I can learn from him because I don't think I can, um, but just like it's very entertaining, and just to be like,
Hmm.
what is this magic man gonna do? um, so yeah, that's I think that's why I like watching that, because kind of like what I said earlier in the show is like the art of like and like expressiveness of chess is like gone. It's just not there anymore. And so to see this person who like even with AI around is able to be like, screw this, I'm gonna go do whatever. And like general consensus is like, oh, he's playing bad moves, but he still makes it work. I'm like, yes, that's what I like. That's awesome. So, all right, we are coming up on an hour here, Octo. Can you believe it?
Yeah. Um, I think we got one more thing that was on the agenda at
Oh yeah,
least.
yeah.
Um, favorite aspects of the game. What do you, what speaks to you?
Not Sumego. Um, we may have similar answers, but I really enjoy like just direction of play within the game. In the
Mhm.
sense that like let me pull up the board because this one I can actually like uh provide like good examples for. I think if I can ever clean this up. Oh wait, did oh you gave me
I gave
control?
you control back.
I
Yeah.
was like, what is happening here? Um, like if we were to just, I'm just gonna quickly play out moves and not really think about it. Um, um, like this could be like the start of a game, right? And at I would say at a DDK rank, play any normal move here. You can approach might be a bit difficult, but you could do that. Extend here. You can go here. Anything normal looking, it's fine for DDK. When you start getting SDK, this is where like I really like thinking about direction of play, because like, and I spend so much time like in the beginning of my games because I'm thinking like, what are my stones saying? What do I want to accomplish here? So again, I kind of start off by like looking at this and being like, okay, I have some points down here. I have some points in this corner here. Sorry, I know I'm hovering, but you're not seeing it. So I have points here. I have points here, and then I have like this wall right here, which I don't know what I'm going to do with. Um, I know that it's a little thick, not terribly thick, but if that's the case, well, I want to play away from thickness. And then I look at what is white doing? Okay, well, white, let's see, we'll do this color. White has maybe some points up here, kind of hard to say. Maybe some points in here. It's very open ended because a lot can happen. But they've at least have some thickness here, and then this could turn into influence. This could turn into territory. It's hard to say. It's really undetermined. But I look at this and I'm like, okay, what do I want to do? Well, there's nothing weak on the board. There's um, there's still like a very open side of the board over here. So I probably want to do something over here, but I don't want to like play too close to my wall. So then maybe I'm gonna play, you know, some oh god, play some move like here, here. Maybe even start with a shoulder hit. I don't know, something. I could maybe even do a 3-3, I guess. Just something to do over there. Um, I know I kind of went down a rabbit hole, but direction of play I find very interesting. As the
Hmm.
board builds, I'm like, what am I really wanting to do here, and trying to figure out that problem.
Right. Um,
What about for you?
it is pretty common knowledge if you watch my stream. Um, I despise Sumigo, and I really love Joseki. I'm definitely one of those weirdos. But just the opening in general, it always it always breaks my heart a little bit when people either hate the opening or they dismiss the opening. Um, because in all fairness, the middle game is truly the essence of Go. Like that's where all the real things of Go are taking place. Um, and I neglected that for a long time. In fact, I would even argue that that's one of the things that made me break through to Don level was really beginning to understand direction of play in terms of the middle game. Uh, I think I have a pretty good sense of direction of play for the opening though. And there's other little things that are just sort of starting to blossom. We talked earlier about just utilizing Aji. It's kind of a newer concept that it's not something I am so focused on like I am other things. Um, but yeah,
Yeah, I
mostly the opening.
yeah. Speaking of Aji, when you started learning, or not learning, but like toying with Aji more in terms of planting stones, it like opened up my brain in terms of how to use Aji, and so then like I started implementing different moves into my game to utilize the Aji that I've already planted, and I'm like,
Hmm.
oh my god, this game is so much more fun now that like now that like
Yeah,
you basically can get away with murder if you have like some random stone nearby. And so like now your opponent has to make a choice and you're like, yeah, sucks for you, doesn't it? Figure it out.
yeah, and there's such a common occurrence that happens with SDKs, and I mean obviously DDKs, but it'll be where I'll be reviewing a game, and this SDK has a beautiful looking Aji Stone, and I will just stop everything on stream and be like, please don't play another move here. Tanuki, go do something else. And sure enough, no, I have to save this stone at all costs. And it's just, no, stop it. Stop it. That's for later. The value of that single stone vastly outweighs whatever weak group you're about to create. Right? It's like what I said earlier about just this continual um, stream of defensive moves where you
Mm-hmm.
have to it's the burden of a weak group. You have to babysit this thing and you created it out of nothing simply because you wanted to save a single stone. So that can be a very transformative idea once you have seen enough instances of it.
Mm-hmm. I'm laughing so hard because I'm like, man, I've been pretty guilty of that.
We all have. It's fine. And yeah, I mean I'm not intending to be judgmental. It's just if, like I said, if you've seen my stream, this
Yeah,
is something I harp on all the time, and there'll be repeat offenders, right? Who just
true.
how many times have I told you this? You know,
You keep
it's
asking
it's
for
all good though. We
reviews.
we try to have a lot of fun.
The feedback's the same. um, yeah, no, I get it. Okay, I think that's it on our agenda. Thanks for reminding me of that last topic. Um, is there any socials that you want to spread out there? Maybe your stream?
Um, just yeah, share my stream. You can find me on Twitch, Octopodes Titan. Um, what if the audience has questions? What will they do then?
Well, we will get that set up and figured out because I did not
Oh boy.
set up an
Oh
email.
boy.
So okay, hold on. I did not set up an email, so people cannot email questions or comments, whatever. But this will be uploaded to YouTube, so people can comment down below.
Yeah.
Um, so can do
Maybe
that.
we'll post a link on Reddit, and that might be another easy way to ask questions, make comments.
Yeah. Yep. Probably something along those lines. We'll figure it out. Um, so yeah.
But yeah,
Oh,
we
sorry. One last important thing to say about this show. Um, I, we really want to emphasize this is fairly relaxed in what we're doing. So like, don't at the moment expect episodes every single week. There may be gaps. Because one, we have lives, and two, we're just doing this for fun. So
yeah.
maybe at one point it will be consistent, but just setting that expectation now for people.
We do have some more themed episodes in the works. We definitely have some special guests who have already said that they will join us. Hopefully, we can get our third host in here, and that'll just make for an even better dynamic.
Heck yeah.
Because he's what I call a proto Don, right? He's that high SDK. Like he's trying to burst through that Don door. I would say for the most part, he's there. He's there, but who knows?
All right. This has been Don in the Queue. Thanks for watching, everyone.